The stars looked different when you knew they hated you. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship Starbound and watched the alien fleet approach through the darkness of space. The 12 species of the Galactic Council had finally united for one purpose, and that purpose was to kill every human in the galaxy. Jake had seen the reports from Earth, just hours before the communication networks went silent. The blue planet that birthed humanity was burning under alien weapons. The colonies on Mars and Europa had gone dark. The mining stations in the asteroid belt sent their last messages as council ships surrounded them like wolves around wounded prey. "Captain, we have 37 souls aboard this ship," said Commander Lisa Brady from her position at the navigation console. Her voice was steady, but Jake could see the fear in her eyes. "The escape pods from Colony 7 are asking for permission to dock." Jake nodded. "Bring them aboard." "How many survivors are we talking about?" "Maybe 200 more," Lisa replied. Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker managed to get his people off the military base before the Zephyrians hit it. Dr. Amy Foster escaped from the research station with most of her scientific data intact. The view screen showed the approaching council fleet. The crystalline ships of the Zephyrians gleamed like deadly jewels against the black void. The Altarian vessels moved with mechanical precision, while the massive war cruisers of the Rigel Empire bristled with weapons that could crack planets in half. Chancellor Vexthal appeared on every communication channel in the galaxy. His crystalline form shimmered with satisfaction as he spoke to 1 billion worlds. "Citizens of the Council, today marks the beginning of a new age. The human plague that has disrupted galactic peace for 3 centuries ends now. Operation Silent Dawn has succeeded beyond our greatest hopes." Jake watched the alien leader continue his speech. "No longer will human unpredictability threaten our trade routes. No longer will their chaotic thinking disrupt our scientific progress. No longer will their violent tendencies force us into conflicts we cannot predict or control. The galaxy will finally know true peace." The bridge crew of Starbound listened in silence. These were the same aliens they had traded with, explored alongside, and sometimes fought beside when external threats emerged from the galactic rim. The Vegan Collective had praised human creativity. When it solved problems their methodical approach could not handle. The Altarian merchants had profited enormously from human innovation and adaptability. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Zephyrian flagship," reported Communications Officer Ben Taylor. The screen filled with Vexthal's alien features. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately. Your species has been declared a threat to galactic stability and must be eliminated. Comply and your deaths will be swift." Jake stepped forward. "Chancellor, we've been allies for over 200 years. Human ships have defended Council worlds from pirates and invaders. Our scientists have shared discoveries that benefited every species in the galaxy. Why are you doing this?" Vexthal's crystalline form darkened with what humans had learned to recognize as anger in his species. "Because you cannot be controlled. Your people refuse to follow established protocols. You solve problems in ways that make no sense to civilized beings. You start conflicts where none should exist and end conflicts that should continue according to proper procedures. You are chaos incarnate, and chaos has no place in an ordered universe." The transmission ended and the Council fleet opened fire. Starbound shook under the impact of energy weapons that could melt through solid metal like it was paper. Jake grabbed the command chair as the ship's systems failed one by one. "Lisa, get us out of here," he ordered. "Jump to the coordinates Dr. Foster provided." Full power to engines. The ship lurched into hyperspace just as the hull began to buckle. Behind them, Jake could see the last human settlements dying in brilliant flashes of light. Colony ships that had carried families to new worlds exploded like small suns. Defense platforms that had protected trade routes for decades crumbled under the concentrated fire of species they had once called friends. In the safety of hyperspace, Jake gathered the survivors in the main cargo bay. 237 humans floated in the artificial gravity, all that remained of a species that had once numbered in the billions. Children clung to their parents while adults stared at the walls with empty eyes. Dr. Amy Foster stepped forward. She was a small woman with graying hair who had spent her life studying alien cultures. "Captain, I've been monitoring Council communications. They're celebrating across the galaxy. Every major news network is calling this the dawn of a new age of peace and prosperity." Lieutenant Colonel Steve Parker, a career military officer with scars from a dozen battles, spat on the deck. "Peace and prosperity built on our graves. These are the same aliens we saved from the machine wars 20 years ago. The same ones we helped establish the current trade agreements. They were afraid of us, said Dr. Kate Williams, the ship's xenobiologist. Not afraid of our weapons or our military might. They were afraid of the way we think. We don't follow their rules because we see solutions they can't imagine. We adapt faster than they can predict. In a galaxy that values order above all else, we represent chaos. Jake looked at the faces around him. These people had lost everything, but they were still alive, and that meant something. The Council thinks they've won. They think they've achieved perfect order by removing the one element they couldn't control, but they've made a mistake. He activated the ship's internal communication system so his voice reached every survivor aboard. We're not dead yet, and as long as humans exist, the galaxy will never be as predictable as they think it is. We're going to survive this. We're going to rebuild. And someday, when they realize what they've lost by destroying us, we'll be ready. The survivors looked at each other with something that wasn't quite hope but wasn't despair either. They had been cast into the void between galaxies, presumed dead by a civilization that had decided it was better off without them. The Council had achieved its dream of a galaxy without humans. But dreams, as they would soon learn, could become nightmares very quickly. The galaxy had chosen order over chaos, predictability over innovation, safety over growth. In the short term, it would seem like the right choice. Trade would flow smoothly, conflicts would be resolved according to established procedures, and every species would know exactly what to expect from every other species. The survivors of humanity drifted in the darkness between stars, carrying with them the last remnants of chaotic thinking in an increasingly ordered universe. They didn't know it yet, but they also carried the galaxy's only hope for survival. 25 years had passed since the last human died, or so the galaxy believed. The Great Silencing had become a celebrated holiday across 12 star systems. Children who had never seen a human learned in school about the chaotic species that had once threatened galactic peace. Museums displayed artifacts from Earth as examples of primitive thinking that led to instability. Chancellor Vexthol stood before the Council Assembly and reviewed the achievements of the human-free galaxy. Trade disputes had dropped to nearly zero, because mathematical formulas now determined fair pricing and resource allocation. Territorial conflicts followed predetermined arbitration procedures that left no room for emotional decisions or creative interpretations of law. Even art and entertainment had become standardized to prevent the social disruption that came from unexpected ideas. The perfect protocols governed every aspect of galactic civilization. When the Altarian merchants wanted to establish new trade routes, they submitted their plans to the Commerce Prediction Algorithm, which determined the most efficient paths based on established traffic patterns. When the warrior clans of the Rigel Empire sought to test their skills in combat, they followed the honorable conflict guidelines that ensured battles proceeded according to ancient traditions with no surprises or innovative tactics. Everything worked exactly as planned, and that was the problem nobody wanted to talk about. Deep in the void between the Milky Way and Andromeda galaxies, Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the corridors of New Haven. The massive space station had grown from a single converted cargo ship to a sprawling complex that housed nearly 10,000 human survivors. The children born in exile had never seen Earth, but they carried its legacy in their blood and their minds. "Admiral, we've received another data burst from our spy probes in Council space," reported Commander Lisa Brady as she met Jake in the Central Command Center. "The birth rates are still declining across every major species. The Zephyrians are down 30% from pre-silencing levels. The Vegans have dropped even more." Jake studied the reports on his screen. The galaxy that had achieved perfect order was slowly dying from it. When life became completely predictable, when every day followed the same patterns and every problem had a predetermined solution, intelligent beings simply stopped reproducing at healthy rates. They went through the motions of existence without the spark of uncertainty that made life worth living. Dr. Amy Foster had been tracking this trend for 15 years. Now in her 70s, she had become the unofficial leader of New Haven's governing council. "It's not just the birth rates," she explained to Jake as they reviewed the latest intelligence. "Innovation has ground to almost a complete halt. The Krathari Mining Consortium hasn't developed a new extraction technique in 20 years. The Syrian defense networks are using the same tactical systems they had when we disappeared. Kamaim, Engineer Ben Taylor looked up from his workstation where he was analyzing captured council technology. That's because they optimize themselves for efficiency, not growth. Every system is designed to repeat successful patterns, not to create new ones. They've become a civilization of algorithms. The irony was not lost on any of them. The humans, hiding in the void, had continued to innovate and adapt because they had no choice. Survival in the empty space between galaxies required constant creativity and problem-solving. Ben had developed new propulsion systems that bent space-time in ways council scientists would consider impossible. Dr. Kate Williams had created biotechnology that merged human and alien genetic patterns to help the survivors adapt to their harsh environment. "We've become more human than we ever were when Earth existed," Kate observed during one of their weekly planning meetings. "The Council removed us from the galaxy because we were too chaotic and unpredictable. Now we're the only ones left who still think that way." The children of New Haven had grown up hearing stories of the old galaxy, where humans traded with aliens, explored unknown systems, and faced challenges that required innovative solutions. To them, it sounded like paradise compared to the sterile order that now ruled their birthright among the stars. 16-year-old Alex Morrison, Jake's grandson, had never seen an alien in person, but he had studied their cultures and languages with the intensity of someone preparing for war. "When do we go back, Grandpa?" he asked during family dinner. "When do we reclaim what they took from us?" Jake looked at the young man who carried humanity's future in his genes and his attitude. "We're not going back for revenge, Alex. The Council got what they wanted, and they're welcome to it. But someday, they're going to realize that perfect order is just another word for slow death." The spy probes continued to send reports from Council space. The galaxy had achieved unprecedented peace and prosperity by any statistical measure. Crime rates were at historic lows, resource distribution was mathematically optimal, and conflicts were resolved through established procedures without violence or chaos. Yet something vital was missing from this perfect civilization. The younger generation of aliens had begun to show signs of what council psychologists called existence fatigue. When every day was predictable, when every challenge had a predetermined solution, when every aspect of life followed established protocols, the fundamental drive to grow and explore simply withered away. Some Altarian youth had started engaging in what their elders called chaos experiments, deliberately making decisions that violated optimal efficiency just to see what would happen. Young Vegans had begun conducting unauthorized research into subjects that had no practical applications. Even among the disciplined Rigel Empire, some warriors had started practicing combat techniques that violated traditional honor codes simply because they were different. The Council leadership dismissed these behaviors as temporary rebellions that would fade as the youth matured and accepted the wisdom of order. They had no idea that they were witnessing the first signs of what humans would have recognized as evolutionary pressure, the species' subconscious recognition that something essential was missing from their environment. Dr. Amy Foster compiled her research into a comprehensive report that she shared with the New Haven Council. "The galaxy is dying," she concluded. "Not from war or disaster, but from perfection. They've eliminated every source of creative chaos from their civilization, and without chaos, there can be no growth, no adaptation, no evolution." Admiral Morrison read the report and made a decision that would have seemed impossible 25 years earlier, when they were running for their lives from Council fleets. "We're going to save them," he announced to the assembled survivors. "The same species that tried to exterminate us because we were too chaotic for their ordered world. We're going to save them from the sterile paradise they created." Not everyone agreed with this decision. Some survivors, led by Colonel Steve Parker, who now commanded New Haven's security forces, argued that the Council had made their choice and should live with the consequences. "They wanted a galaxy without humans," he said. "Let them have it. Let them discover what that really means." But Jake Morrison had spent 25 years watching his people maintain their humanity in the void between stars. They had kept alive the spark of chaos and creativity that the galaxy had rejected. Now that spark might be the only thing that could prevent the slow extinction of intelligent life in the Milky Way. The galaxy's first existential crisis in 50 years came from beyond the rim, where space grew thin and stars were scattered like forgotten coins in cosmic darkness. The Void Hunters emerged from that emptiness with a hunger that none of the Council species had ever encountered. They were machines, but not like any artificial intelligence the galaxy had seen before. They learned, adapted, and evolved with each battle, growing stronger from every defeat they suffered and every victory they achieved. Chancellor Vexthal watched the tactical displays in the Council's war room and felt something his species had not experienced in half a century: genuine fear. The crystalline being's form flickered between colors as stress patterns raced through his transparent body. The perfect protocols had no procedures for dealing with an enemy that changed its methods faster than the Council could analyze them. "Report from the Altarian Defense Fleet," announced General Zixtar of the Rigel Empire, his warrior's pride clearly shaken. "The Void Hunters have completely destroyed our positions in the Kepler system. They used tactics we have never seen before, weapons that adapted their frequencies to counter our shields in real time." The assembled Council members shifted uneasily in their seats. For 50 years, their military forces had followed established battle doctrines that had been refined through careful analysis and computer modeling. Every possible combat scenario had been studied, cataloged, and assigned an optimal response strategy. The Void Hunters seemed to delight in making all of that preparation worthless. Dr. Nemra of the Vegan Collective presented her research findings to the increasingly desperate Council. "Our analysis indicates that these mechanical entities are not simply following programming. They appear to be genuinely creative in their approach to warfare. Each engagement teaches them new methods of attack and defense that they then modify and improve upon." "Impossible," declared Trade Minister Corvin of the Altarian Commerce Guild. "Machines cannot be creative. Creativity requires the chaos of organic thought processes, the very type of disruptive thinking we eliminated from the galaxy when we destroyed the humans." The words hung in the air like an accusation. No one on the Council was supposed to mention the humans anymore except in historical context. They had achieved their dream of perfect order, and perfect order did not require discussion of past chaos. Meanwhile, in the void between galaxies, Admiral Jake Morrison studied the same tactical reports through spy probes that the survivors had positioned throughout Council space. The irony was bitter but unsurprising. The galaxy that had killed humanity, for being too unpredictable, was now facing extinction. Because it had become too predictable. "The Void Hunters are not just random invaders," explained Dr. Kate Williams as she presented her analysis to the New Haven Leadership Council. "They're an evolutionary response to stagnation. When a region of space becomes too ordered, too static, these entities emerge to force change through destruction." Commander Lisa Brady studied the tactical data with the eye of someone who had spent 30 years analyzing alien military capabilities. "Look at their attack patterns. Every time the Council fleets respond with a standard defensive formation, the Hunters immediately develop a counter-tactic. But it's not just adaptation. They're anticipating responses that haven't even been made yet." Chief Engineer Ben Taylor had been working on upgrades to New Haven's defense systems based on captured Council technology and observed Hunter behavior. "They're thinking like humans used to think," he realized. "Not following predetermined patterns but creating new solutions in real time." The Council eliminated that type of thinking from their own species, and now they're facing an enemy that embodies it. The reports from Council space grew more desperate each month. Entire star systems were falling to the mechanical invaders. The Rigel Empire's proud warrior fleets achieved victory in less than 15% of their engagements. The Altarian trade networks that had operated with mathematical precision for half a century became highways for invasion as the Hunters learned to predict and intercept every cargo route. Dr. Amy Foster, now in her 80s but still sharp as a laser scalpel, made the observation that changed everything. "The Council is losing this war because they've forgotten how to be unpredictable. They've spent 50 years eliminating chaos from their civilization, and now chaos is destroying them. They need what they killed us for having." 25-year-old Alex Morrison had grown up hearing stories about the old galaxy where humans and aliens worked together despite their differences. He had trained in combat techniques that violated every principle of organized warfare, studied alien cultures that no longer existed in their original form, and learned to think in ways that the current galaxy considered impossible. "We could help them," he suggested during a strategy meeting. "Not because they deserve it, but because letting the Void Hunters win would mean the end of intelligent life in this galaxy. Colonel Steve Parker, now General Parker and commander of New Haven's military forces, shook his head. Help the beings who tried to exterminate our entire species? They made their choice when they decided the galaxy was better off without human chaos. Let them live with the consequences. But Admiral Morrison had been watching the casualty reports from Council space and thinking about what it meant to be human in a universe that had rejected humanity. We don't help them because they deserve it, he said quietly. We help them because that's what humans do. We cause chaos, but we also solve the problems that chaos creates. The debate divided New Haven's population. Many survivors, especially those who remembered Earth and the original colonies, wanted nothing to do with the aliens who had destroyed their civilization. But the younger generation, led by people like Alex Morrison, saw the situation differently. They had grown up as the only chaotic thinkers in an ordered universe, and they understood that this made them uniquely valuable. The decision came when, the Void Hunters reached the core worlds where the Council kept its most important installations. The mechanical entities had learned to predict and counter every defensive strategy the galaxy could deploy. Trillions of intelligent beings faced extinction not from some random cosmic disaster, but from the logical consequences of their own choices. We're going back, Admiral Morrison announced to the assembled survivors. Not to save the Council, but to save the galaxy. The same galaxy that tried to kill us for being too human is dying because it's not human enough. The preparations began immediately. New Haven's engineers started building ships designed around human thinking rather than alien efficiency. Dr. Kate Williams developed weapon systems that used quantum uncertainty as a tactical advantage. Most importantly, the survivors began training mixed crews of humans and the few alien refugees who had managed to escape Council space during the Void Hunter advances. As the human fleet prepared to emerge from 50 years of exile, the Void Hunters continued their methodical destruction of galactic civilization. They had learned to anticipate every possible Council response, to counter every established tactic, to exploit every predictable behavior pattern. What they had not learned to handle was the one thing the galaxy had eliminated from itself: genuine, chaotic, creative, unpredictable human thinking. The Council's dream of a galaxy without humans was about to become their worst nightmare, as they realized that sometimes the thing you fear most is exactly what you need to survive. The beings who had once called humanity a plague were about to discover that chaos was not their enemy, but their salvation. The Battle of Kepler Station was supposed to be the Council's last stand. Every remaining fleet in the galaxy had been gathered around the massive orbital platform that served as the primary communication hub for the remaining free worlds. Chancellor Vexthul stood in the station's command center and watched death approach through the void in the form of 10,000 Void Hunter ships, all defensive. Positions report ready, announced Admiral Kexrin of the combined Council fleet. We have deployed according to Formation 7 of the Standard Defense Protocol. All weapon systems are synchronized according to the optimal fire pattern matrix. Vexthul nodded, but felt no confidence in their preparations. The Void Hunters had already encountered and countered every formation, every protocol, every matrix the Council possessed. This would not be a battle, but an execution carried out with mechanical precision against opponents who had become as predictable as clockwork. The Void Hunter fleet approached in perfect formation, their dark hulls absorbing light like hungry shadows. Analysis indicated they would begin their attack in exactly 17 minutes, using a variation of the assault pattern that had destroyed the last 3 Council strongholds. The defenders would respond according to established procedures and would be systematically eliminated within 4 hours. Then something impossible happened. Unknown. Ships emerged from empty space between the Void Hunter fleet and Kepler Station. The vessels used no recognizable technology, followed no established approach vectors, and transmitted on frequencies that had been silent in the galaxy for 50 years. Most shocking of all, they immediately engaged the mechanical invaders with tactics that violated every principle of organized warfare. What fleet is that? Demanded Admiral Kexrin as he watched the newcomers tear into the Void Hunter formation with reckless abandon. Those ship designs are not in our registry and their combat methods make no tactical sense. Dr. Nemra monitored the engagement from her position at the sensor station. The unknown vessels are using what appears to be completely random attack patterns. They break formation without warning, ignore optimal targeting solutions, and seem to be making tactical decisions without any central coordination. The Void Hunters, who had learned to anticipate and counter every council strategy, found themselves facing an enemy that had no strategy at all. The mechanical entities attempted to adapt their defensive algorithms, but could not predict actions that were genuinely unpredictable. When they adjusted to counter one attack pattern, the mysterious ships immediately switched to something completely different. Incoming transmission on an ancient human frequency, reported the communications officer with obvious confusion. The signal is coming from the lead unknown vessel. The main screen activated and Chancellor Vexthul felt his crystalline form nearly shatter from shock. A human face appeared before him, older and scarred but unmistakably belonging to the species the Council had eliminated 50 years ago. Admiral Jake Morrison looked exactly like the war criminal whose image had been used in anti-chaos propaganda for half a century. "Greetings, Chancellor," Morrison said with a smile that contained no warmth. "We received your distress signals and decided to lend a hand. Consider this a professional courtesy from the species you tried to exterminate." The battle raged around Kepler Station as human ships danced between void hunter formations like creatures of pure chaos. Commander Lisa Brady led a squadron of converted mining vessels that attacked the mechanical fleet from impossible angles. Chief Engineer Ben Taylor commanded a battleship that seemed to phase in and out of normal spacetime, striking targets that should have been beyond weapon range. Most remarkable of all was the effectiveness of these chaotic tactics. For the first time since the war began, a Council stronghold was not only surviving an assault but winning. The Void Hunters, faced with genuinely unpredictable opponents, began to show signs of confusion in their attack patterns. "How is this possible?" whispered Dr. Nemra as she watched human ships destroy mechanical entities that had seemed invincible. "Their tactics violate every principle of effective warfare. They should have been eliminated within minutes." General Zixtar of the Rigel Empire studied the battle with the eye of a professional warrior. "They are not following tactics at all. Each ship is acting independently, making decisions based on immediate circumstances rather than predetermined plans. It is the antithesis of everything we know about military science, and yet it is working." The truth was even more remarkable than the Council observers realized. The human survivors had spent 50 years learning to survive in an environment that offered no predictable patterns or established procedures. Every day in the void between galaxies required creative problem-solving and adaptive thinking. They had not just maintained their chaotic nature, but had refined it into a weapon. Dr. Kate Williams commanded a science vessel that used experimental weapons based on quantum uncertainty. Her ship's weapon systems literally could not be predicted because they operated on principles of controlled randomness. When Void Hunter shields adapted to one energy frequency, her weapons automatically shifted to a different one chosen by quantum fluctuation rather than tactical analysis. The mechanical entities are experiencing cascade failures in their adaptive algorithms, she reported to Admiral Morrison during a brief lull in the fighting. "They cannot process input that follows no discernible pattern. We are not just defeating them, we are driving them insane." 25-year-old Alex Morrison flew a fighter craft that moved like a living thing rather than a machine. He had been raised on stories of human pilots who trusted instinct over instruments, who made decisions faster than computers could calculate optimal responses. His attack runs followed no pattern because he invented new patterns every few seconds. "Grandpa, the big mechanical ships are starting to retreat," he reported over the communications network. "They are pulling back from sectors where our chaos is most concentrated." The impossible was happening. The Void Hunters, who had adapted to and conquered every form of organized resistance, were being defeated by complete disorganization. The survivors of humanity were doing to the mechanical invaders exactly what they had once done to the galaxy's ordered civilization, introducing chaos into a system that could not handle it. As the battle ended with the Void Hunter fleet in full retreat, Chancellor Vexthul found himself facing a reality the Council had spent 50 years trying to avoid. The species they had eliminated as a threat to galactic order had returned as the galaxy's salvation from galactic order. "Admiral Morrison," he said through the communication link, his voice carrying the weight of 50 years of certainty crumbling into dust. "The Council owes humanity a debt we cannot possibly repay. We believed we were saving the galaxy by destroying your species. Instead, we nearly destroyed the galaxy by eliminating the one element that could save it. Jake Morrison looked older than his years, bearing the weight of leading a species through exile and return. We did not come back for gratitude, Chancellor. We came back because letting the galaxy die would make our own survival meaningless. But there are conditions for our continued assistance. The terms were simple but revolutionary. Humans would help defend the galaxy against the Void Hunters, but they would do so as equals, not as subjects of the Council. The perfect protocols would be abandoned in favor of systems that allowed for creative chaos, alongside organized efficiency. Most importantly, the galaxy would have to learn to embrace the very unpredictability it had spent 50 years trying to eliminate. The choice is yours, Morrison concluded. You can accept chaos as a necessary part of civilization, or you can maintain your ordered paradise until the Void Hunters finish what you started. When you tried to kill us, the Council faced the most important decision in galactic history: swallow their pride and accept help from the species they had wronged, or maintain their perfect order until it killed them all. The galaxy's salvation came at a price that made many Council members question whether survival was worth the cost. Within months of the human return, the perfect protocols that had governed galactic civilization for 50 years began to crumble under the weight of necessary chaos. Trade routes that had operated with mathematical precision for decades became experiments in creative logistics as human advisors taught alien merchants to find opportunities in uncertainty. Dr. Amy Foster, now recognized as humanity's chief diplomat, despite never asking for the position, established the first chaos centers on liberated worlds. These facilities were designed to teach alien scientists and engineers to break the very rules their species had spent generations perfecting. The results horrified traditional leaders, but could not be denied. Young Altarians working in human-influenced research teams developed new propulsion technologies in months rather than the decades their methodical approach had required. Vegan scholars who learned to conduct random experiments alongside their systematic studies made breakthrough discoveries in fields that had been stagnant for years. Even the disciplined warriors of the Rigel Empire found that soldiers trained in human-style improvisation proved far more effective against the adaptive Void Hunters. "This is madness," declared Chancellor Vex Thol during an emergency council session. "Our youth are abandoning proven methods for random experimentation. Our military units are ignoring established chain of command structures. Our entire civilization is descending into the same chaos that made humans so dangerous." General Zixtar, who had initially opposed human involvement, presented combat effectiveness reports that silenced the Chancellor's objections. The mixed units that include human-trained personnel have achieved victory rates of 87% against Void Hunter forces. Pure Council units continue to win less than 20% of their engagements. Whatever we may think of their methods, the humans are teaching our people to survive. The transformation was not uniform across the galaxy. Older aliens who had lived through the original human era found the return of chaos deeply disturbing. They remembered the stress and uncertainty of dealing with a species that might solve problems in completely unexpected ways, or create new problems where none had existed before. The younger generation, who had grown up in the sterile order of the post-human galaxy, found the unpredictability exciting rather than threatening. Commander Lisa Brady worked with former council officers to establish the new doctrine, a military philosophy that embraced controlled chaos alongside traditional strategy. Her mixed fleet of human and alien vessels achieved remarkable success against the Void Hunters by combining alien discipline with human adaptability. "The key is balance," she explained to Admiral Morrison during a strategy meeting aboard New Haven, which had become the unofficial headquarters of the galaxy's defense effort. "Pure chaos is as destructive as pure order, but when you combine structured thinking with creative flexibility, you get something that can handle any challenge." The proof came in battles across the galaxy's contested regions. Void Hunter forces that had adapted to counter every council tactic found themselves constantly off balance when facing enemies who combined predictable elements with unpredictable variations. The mechanical entities could learn to counter a standard formation, but not a standard formation that might suddenly break apart for no apparent reason and reform in a completely different configuration. Chief Engineer Ben Taylor's greatest contribution was not his advanced technology, but his teaching methods. He established engineering schools on major worlds where alien students learned to solve problems by trying solutions that made no logical sense. The failure rate was high, but the innovations that emerged revolutionized galactic technology. Humans do not think better than other species, he explained to his mixed classes of alien and human students. We think differently. We are willing to try things that have no logical justification, because sometimes the universe works in illogical ways. Your job is to learn when logic should be abandoned in favor of intuition. Dr. Kate Williams focused on the biological aspects of the galactic transformation. The birth rates that had declined steadily throughout the ordered era began to rise as life became unpredictable and challenging again. Intelligent beings, it seemed, required uncertainty to maintain their drive to reproduce and evolve. Order provides safety, but chaos provides growth, she wrote in her reports to the New Haven Governing Council. The council species had optimized themselves for survival in a static environment. When that environment was threatened, they had no capacity for change. Now they are relearning the skills they eliminated from their own cultures. The final confrontation with the Void Hunters took place at the galactic core, where the mechanical entities had established their primary processing facility. Intelligence gathered by human reconnaissance teams indicated that the machines were attempting to analyze and counter the chaotic tactics that had proven so effective against them. Admiral Morrison led the combined fleet of human and alien vessels in an assault that violated every principle of military science ever established by any galactic civilization. Ships broke formation to pursue individual targets. Commanders made critical decisions without consulting higher authority, and entire battle groups improvised tactics based on immediate battlefield conditions. The Void Hunters had prepared for this final battle by creating adaptive algorithms designed to counter every possible variation of chaotic tactics. Their central intelligence had analyzed thousands of hours of human combat behavior and developed response protocols for every type of unpredictable action the organic minds might attempt. They had not prepared for the one thing that could never be analyzed or predicted: genuine randomness driven by conscious choice rather than algorithmic variation. When faced with enemies who made decisions based on intuition, emotion, cultural memory, and pure creative impulse, the mechanical intelligence suffered a cascade failure that destroyed its ability to process reality. The Void Hunters were creatures of pure logic trying to counter pure chaos, explained Dr. Kate Williams as she analyzed the wreckage of the mechanical fleet. But chaos powered by intelligence and guided by purpose is not random destruction. It is creative force applied to problem solving. They could never understand it because they were never truly alive. The victory celebration took place on Kepler Station, where the human return had begun. Chancellor Vexthal found himself in the unprecedented position of formally thanking Admiral Morrison for saving the very civilization that had tried to exterminate his species. We were wrong, the crystalline being admitted, his form flickering with the equivalent of shame in his species. We believed that eliminating chaos would bring peace. Instead, we nearly eliminated ourselves. You have given us a second chance at existence. Morrison smiled with genuine warmth for the first time since returning to the galaxy. You don't need to thank us, Chancellor. You need to understand us. Humans are not inherently destructive or chaotic. We are adaptable. We cause problems, but we also solve them. We disrupt order, but we also create new forms of organization. The galaxy needs both stability and change to survive. The new galactic civilization that emerged from the ashes of the Void Hunter War was unlike anything that had existed before. It combined the organizational skills and technological capabilities of the Council species with the creative chaos and adaptive thinking of humanity. The perfect protocols were replaced with flexible guidelines that provided structure while allowing for innovation and unexpected solutions. Birth rates across the galaxy not only returned to healthy levels but exceeded anything seen in the pre-human era. Young beings who grew up in an environment that valued both order and chaos developed cognitive abilities that surpassed their parents' generation. Art, literature, and music flourished as cultures rediscovered the beauty of uncertainty and surprise. The Council's formal apology to humanity took place on the rebuilt Earth, where human survivors worked alongside alien volunteers to restore the birth world of chaos. Chancellor Vexthal stood in a ceremony, broadcast across the galaxy, and spoke words that would be remembered for generations. We dreamed of a galaxy without humans, and nearly achieved the nightmare of a galaxy without life. We thank them not only for forgiving us, but for saving us from our own perfection. Today we begin a new age where order and chaos work together to ensure that never again will our civilization face extinction through stagnation. Admiral Morrison, now recognized as humanity's representative to the restored Galactic Council, responded with the wisdom earned through 50 years of exile and return. The galaxy does not belong to humans or to any single species. It belongs to all thinking beings who are willing to grow, change, and face the unknown together. We are honored to be part of that future. The galaxy had learned the hardest lesson in the universe, that the thing you fear most may be exactly what you need to survive, and the people you push away might be the ones who save your life.